Hello again, and a very warm welcome to our little podcast, Sweet Omagh Town Internet Radio. My name is Don McGurgan here in Omagh, and hopefully I'll be talking to my co-presenter, Mr. Declan Ford in Mountfield. Hello, Mr. Ford.
Hello?
Mr. Ford, it is Mr.
Hello?
McGurgan here from Omagh.
Oh, I thought
Remember
it was just
me?
one of those phone calls.
Well, you're...
A scam.
You're
Not that you would be up to a scam or anything, of course, Mr. McGurgan. I hope you've made a New Year resolution to be good.
Oh, a little scammer rang me today to tell me my BT internet was playing up and he wanted the password so he could fix it for me.
Oh, no, God, there's a lot of civil people out there.
I just told him to go and do the impossible. Which he hung up. He seemed to get the drift.
Talking about the impossible, do you think will that lump Trump leave?
I think he... Yes, I think he will. I mean, at the end of the day, Declan, if the leader of the free world is not allowed to use Facebook or Twitter, I don't think he should have the nuclear code keys. What do you think?
I think not. Somebody sent me a little image on the phone today, and it was two guys who are obviously ardent Trump supporters being interviewed outside the White House.
Yes.
And this is true. The tail end of the interviewer was thanking them, and they were saying, we're not stupid. We're not stupid. Donald Trump's, people are not stupid. Donald J. Trump. What does the J stand for? Genius.
Well, another person died, Declan, from that, apparently.
Yes.
He had a stun gun, and he accidentally shot himself in the testicles and died with a heart attack.
Was this one of the protesters?
Yes.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Yes. That's a new
That
name.
was a shock to his system.
That's a new name for karma. Anyway, move swiftly on here, can we?
Yes.
How is life with yourself?
Life is great.
Good.
You know that I like a new year. I just like a fresh start, and you go in like a bull in a china shop,
Yes.
and you're just all ready and raring to go. And that's what this new year will bring.
Let's hope. Let's hope.
I always try to see the positive in everything, and I like a new year, a fresh start.
6th of January is a
The
lovely
spring
day.
has sprung, the grass is riz. I wonder where the boities is.
Ah, good. No, I got a phone call or text from someone to say that they remembered the old Strula FM radio station we had. Was it 08 and 09? We done a couple of programmes that time.
It was around then, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, our Sony award-winning School FM.
Yes. I didn't realise that was such a big deal till long after. I didn't
No,
realise.
I hadn't a clue, for goodness sake.
We didn't go or anything, Declan. We wouldn't go.
No, it was actually interesting because I think there were a few of our colleagues went over and they were pretty much enthralled by it and really enjoyed the experience. But I think when they came back and they actually said about how many of other radio stations were there as kind of freebies.
Yes.
It was a wee bit of an eye opener. It was really like a junket.
Yes, I know what you're saying.
And I think it was a great experience now for our colleagues who did
Look, I
go
would
over.
enjoyed it. I don't know why
Yeah,
you
they enjoyed it, and to see how the mighty radio stations
Yes.
how they pat each other in the back. And I
Yes.
think we were the kind of a sort of a non-runner that kind of somehow I think managed to. Well, I think we went streets ahead of the rest.
We were the Goliath.
Oh yes.
Brought the big boys down. No, you know the thing about Omagh is one of the strange things about Omagh, I suppose, people who know the BBC in Omagh, Radio Ulster is sort of at the peripheral, and then Radio Foyle come up, and if you drive around Omagh down towards Watson Park, down the Derry Road, Radio Foyle kicks in, and then Omagh's outside their remit, and I think maybe we've lost some opportunities for radio stations here in the town, especially a community station, and I think maybe there might be mileage on something, I don't know. But then...
Well, I think there's mileage in a talk station, really. It's quite easy just to put on endless, sort of brainless music and have no connection to the town.
See, the problem is with commercial radio, and people don't realise that it's the advertisements that pay the wages, not the music. The music's unimportant, really, and the advertisers start dictating what the music policy is because they're paying for the ads. Therefore, you get this dumbed down music that, that after 4 or 5 hours listening to it, I think you lose the will to live. Or no, I would anyway. So,
It's just...
and you're right, Declan. And then, therefore, can you have a community station that could be, I suppose, pay its way, for want of a better word? I don't know. But it's to be talked about.
I think so. There's mileage in it, and I think there is a great need for a radio station that has talk and local voices.
Yes.
You know, I know the big guns do that, but I think it's not too much part of their remit.
Well, I don't go for the shock jock stuff either, Declan. You see this?
No, I hate it. That golden and roaring into a microphone.
Yes.
And you see that when a DJ says he's on the side of the people, I get frightened.
Oh, I know. You're very easily frightened as well.
I am one of you. No, you're not. You're just loud.
No, I know what you're saying. No. Anyway, we shall discuss, and maybe later on next year or this year when things go. Maybe around next Christmas, we might try something for another 3 or 4 weeks. Who knows? And then we'll see from there if there's mileage in it or if it's got legs of its own to get up and run. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure, we'll take it easy.
Well, sure.
As we always do.
Always take it easy. We've got two speeds: dead slow and stop.
Well, it's okay. I get there. Little turtle gets there, you know.
Oh, yeah. Okay, right. Okay, on to the serious stuff.
Yes. Speaking of that, Strula FM, we recorded some programmes, right?
Yes.
And they disappeared into ether. But my good son was over home for Christmas to New Year, and he gave me a hand, and we have managed to resurrect a few of these.
Excellent.
And we'll let them out sort of in the fullness of time over the weeks and months ahead if this lockdown keeps continuing. Which I hope it doesn't, but it looks like it may be here with us for a week or two yet. But one of the programmes was we interviewed Michael Gaine. Mm-hmm. And for those who don't know Michael Gaine came to Omagh as a young chef to Knocknamoe Hotel from Kenmare.
Down in the county, Kerry.
Kerry, that's right. And he came up here to Omagh and as a young chef.
He was a great speaker.
Wasn't he, just? Right.
He was unbelievable, brilliant.
So a little
very clever man and very measured and forensic. From what I remember in his answers. Yes,
a good interview, yes. And talks very fondly of the town and coming to town and almost being the town that it is, very accepted in the town and came and set up businesses here and retired, sold up and moved back to County Kerry again. But I've sort of lost track of him, but I used to get the odd phone call from him. But
right.
So I'll not mind us putting this out. This is a rerun. We've done it before, and it's just an interview recorded in probably 2009, technically, I think, from memory. Christmas 2009.
My goodness.
So it's.
That's right, because I seem to recollect in the interview, do you remember that last downturn in banks and that? That was around 08 or 09, wasn't it?
Was it
07? And he talks just about we're going through troubled times now, and I think he was referring to the kind of the banking crisis.
Probably was, all right.
But my goodness, that was 11 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well.
But I remember the interview very, very well.
Right.
Just the way he talked about his early days.
Yes.
And what he tried to do in Omagh, and the way that he kind of, the way that he was talking about the different types of, what would you want to say, businesses that provided food.
Right.
And he wanted to take it to another level completely, and he did.
Fine dining, yes.
Fine dining, that was the phrase.
Yes.
And I remember his place. Do you remember in the old Mountfield Road?
Very well. I remember Hawthorn House. A friend of mine, Mickey Brown, used to be the manager there. Would have worked there full time.
Right.
So yeah, no, God, I remember it very well. Then Dorothy Rowe would have stayed there when she come to visit here.
And I see. Do I remember correctly? I think George Martin of Beatles fame.
You're right.
Was there as well.
Yes.
I remember an article in the Herald about it.
Yes, and they had a big night for Ben Kiley in it as well.
Oh, right.
And had several weddings and things. Small hotel, but very, very popular with the locals here as well.
Oh yeah, I mean it was a great venture. Venture, and of course he had the Pink Elephant and Jam as well.
Yes, yes. And had a garden centre. He's quite an entrepreneur, all right.
He was indeed. A nice man, and great voice, great articulation, and great speaker altogether.
Right. And speaking of radio, remember we recorded, or I would have collected some of the old sponsored programmes from RTE or Radio Ireland, I suppose. And that programme, something happened, it couldn't stay up. It was started to crackle a wee bit and all, so we took it off the air. So we worked on that, and we'll ask the listeners sometime to think about the old sponsored Radio Ireland programmes.
Oh, Oh, yes.
And if you're ever allowed out again, if your little place in Mountfield, you'll come down here and you and I will reminisce about the old sponsored programmes. We'll do an hour or two of that, Mr. Ford. And you'll probably write a Christmas card next year with
a Christmas card.
Dear Frankie or something.
Ode to Waltons. Or Dear Frankie. Remember her voice, Dear Frankie?
Oh, yes.
Well, it terrified you.
Oh, great. But she always played Frank Sinatra.
Did she?
All the time. Nothing else, only Frank Sinatra. Yeah.
Oh, Lord, save us.
And then
Frankie and Frank.
And then you had the NDC programme, National Dairy Council, was Gayborn.
Right.
That was before the Gayborn hour of Gayborn programme. And then you had hospital requests.
Hospital requests.
Yes.
And then we start now nearly get into advertising, Odlum's flour.
Uh-huh.
And do you remember the wee fellas who would do a dance for the tea when they were selling tea?
Yeah, Lion's Tea.
Lion's Tea, they had pokers on them and striped jackets.
Yes.
And then was there Bachelor's Peas.
Come on, Jack, yes.
And then there was also, I seem to remember later on, there was an ad for chicken soup. Was it Aaron chicken soup? And they were putting the chickens through an intelligence test. Oh, you're thick enough. You go on. I remember that. And then you had, you went into then, when you, halcyon days of TV, you did Kennedys of Castle Ross.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Guinea and Miley and
that was sponsored by Fry's Cadbury.
Was it?
Yes, and Dear Frankie, was it Jacob's Biscuits? I could be wrong, but I think it's Jacob's. Anyway, you and I will go over all these, and we'll have a night here, Mr. Ford, when you're allowed out. If ever you're allowed out.
When we're allowed out, all being well.
All being well, God knows.
And when all the candles lit in the window and the prayers and the venas are answered.
Yes, oh God knows.
And when things get back to normal.
Yes.
We'll be our usual abnormal selves.
We'll start again. We will start
again. Start afresh. Liam Clancy always quoted the great writer Bertolt Brecht, which was, he would say, with a man's dying breath, he should be getting ready for the next battle.
Definitely.
And I think that's us.
Oh, that's us, Declan.
Get ready for the next battle. If we can inflict boredom and tedium on people.
Well, I met a gentleman the other day at a filling station, and he was filling his car in one pump, and I was mine, and he shouts over to me. He says, "Your wee radio station's grand," he says, "only you talk far too long at the start."
Right. Oh, that's you he's talking about.
Yes. But he's a friend of yours.
Yes. He might be right,
Yeah, he could be right. I said to him, "Do not listen to us at all. Absolutely. Put your little finger down and press it till we disappear."
Right.
And that's all it takes. 2-3 seconds and we're gone.
And that's that we're gone. Oh, sure it is. Look, it's not all a man's life is.
Oh, Declan, tell me about it. Anyway, do you have any New Year's resolution before I let you go? Do you have anything?
No, I don't believe in New Year's resolutions. I do not believe in them at all. I just think, you know what? You just take a deep breath and you just sail forth. The only New Year resolution I ever kept, I smoked my last cigar on the 31st of December at a soiree in the great Tom Sweeney's house. And I said to myself, Mr. Ford, I said, that's the last cigar you're going to smoke. And that was 1990.
Good grief.
And I just remember taking that decision. And that was possibly the only New Year resolution that I've ever kept.
I could see you a bit like, what do you call the actor? Clint Eastwood. You know the way that some of these spaghetti westerns with a tobacco, just a cigar in his mouth and a gun in his hand.
Unfortunately, with this lockdown and everybody eating and drinking too much, I now look more like Winston Churchill with a cigar.
I know. I'm more like Telly Savalas. I like to suck a wee lollipop.
Oh, yeah.
No,
I wouldn't touch the lollipops. Wouldn't have them about me.
No good.
No. This house is coming down with chocolates from Christmas, and I have not let chocolate pass these puce-coloured lips of mine.
Well, I've eaten everything in the house. Eaten everything that came into this house. Boiled cakes, Christmas cakes, plum puddings,
right.
The lot.
And you ate the lot?
I ate the lot. Myself, because Jonathan doesn't like those sort of stuff. And then
I went to see the National Theatre of Scotland put on a play in the Lyric, and you're the guy who played Rab C. Nesbitt.
Yes.
He played the part. It was a Spanish play translated into English, and I think it was called Your Granny.
Right.
And it was about the granny who had an insatiable appetite, and she actually ate the entire house. And it was set in Glasgow in the 1970s in a chip shop. And my son-in-law was the stage manager, or in charge of the techies for it. and he had to come up with an edible table.
Right.
And an edible chair, so they had to figure out some way of making something that the actor could actually chew on the stage.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
so I think you're a bit like that Spanish creation. I'd say that there's hardly a wall in the McGorgan household standing now. They haven't nibbled at like a demented rat.
Well, I got a set of those weigh scales that speak your weight,
Right?
and it says just one at a time, please.
Oh, or help.
Right. Here, I shall go now and I shall get this little CD or tape put up of Michael Gaine.
Excellent. I look forward to hearing it.
Aye, why wouldn't you, sure?
And in the fullness of time, we shall put spake upon one another.
We will, and we will see each other soon, Mr. Ford. Because I forget how you look. I know you.
We'll meet again. Don't know where. Don't know when.
At least I know I can't sing. Here.
On that note.
On that happy note, Mr. Ford, I shall talk to you very soon. Take care of yourselves, and we'll leave you now in the company of Michael Gaine and his memories of Hawthorn House. Michael Gaine, you're very welcome to join us.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, sir. And you don't have an Omagh accent, so where?
No, I'm from the other end. I'm from Kenmare, in County Kerry, and I wandered up here. I used to tell people say, how did you end up in Omagh? Right. I followed the wrong caravan out of Puck Fair.
Good reasons, isn't it?
It wouldn't have been far off that, maybe. I came after a job that time. I'm a chef by trade. Yeah. So chefs have to be nomadic. You have to follow the work. It doesn't matter, and Kenmare Kenmare would have been the hub of the hotel industry, of the tourism industry, Killarney, the thing about Killarney was at the end of the railway line. So every Tom, Dick and Harry ended up in Killarney. You could take a bus or a train from Dublin into Killarney for a weekend for a couple of quid. And Killarney was kind of rough then, because now it was a very, very busy place. But Kenmare was 20 miles beyond that, and of course they couldn't get, only the ones that could afford it could go to Kenmare, So we had a better class of tourists, I think. But from I was a child, the hotels were part of our life. I would have been washing dishes in a hotel when I was probably maybe 9 or 10 years of age.
Well, had you had the hotel life in your background? Or
no. We were farmers. I lived up 2 Mile Bridge, up at 2 miles up the road, But the farming never interested me. And funny at this time, looking back on my background in farming, it must be very, very difficult in the minus 16s and the minus 20s. But it was hard work. It was hard work. There was 9 of us, but we had a big farm. It was about 180 acres. And I can remember cutting barrels of turnips, and I can remember, you had all those kind of jobs when you came from school. And my mother, God rest her, she was great. She was a great cook, my mother, and she would always have variety, And funny, Christmas time now that we are in Christmas time. Christmas time was mighty in our house, and my grandmother was there. So there was 12 of us in the house, And from Christmas Eve on, you actually did celebrate right through to Small Christmas, which is the 6th of January. Or Women's Christmas, as my mother used to call it, And the china was out and everything from the night of Christmas Eve. We ate plenty. It was the only time you weren't slapped at the table for grabbing something, And it was a great time. But I'm going back now to the 60s. I was born in 55, so I was 5 years old in 1960. So I suppose from then, I wasn't a 60s child. I was a 70s child. But during the 60s was my childhood. And we didn't have a bean. There was no money. There was no money in Ireland. There was no money anywhere at that time. And not alone in Kerry. Now, Kerry was always a tourist area. But back then, you had the English tourists, but they were slow enough to part with their money, But the thing was, you always had a way of making money. if it was selling spuds to the hotel, or if it was, even in my young days, collecting the pint bottles off the side of the road where they had their picnics. An awful lot of people had picnics on the side of the road. And there was an old gravel pit down from our house, and they were always stuck there. You'd always see a caravan pulled in there, or you'd always see a car pulled in. And as soon as they were gone, with a hightail, there was 9 of us now. You had to be fast. You had to hightail it down, and the pint bottle was the king of all. You see, if you could find a pint bottle, it was worth sixpence. So that was your wages. That was
brings back a lot of memories. I can tell you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, then, when you were growing up, were the Americans major tourists?
The Americans were, oh gosh, they were. The English were the best. The English, in every sense of the way, the English were the best. Because the English tourist, you see, the English had a system. You see, England has such a history that everything is mapped and everything is planned, and you had your 2 weeks holidays in the year. I mean, we never had holidays. You didn't have holidays. It was that simple. But the Englishman did, and the English family, and they travelled to Ireland. Ireland was the holiday destination of the English until now. You still had Benidorm or Torrevieja. You had a few of those foreign places, but Ireland was the easiest one, and they came with their cars, But the one thing I remember about them, and going right back up into the 70s, in the 70s I went to college and I trained as a chef and that, and was that they had so much money to spend, and they spent it. Now, that was number one. If they had £100 for their holiday spending money, they would not consider it a good holiday if they brought home money. So that was because they had systems for collecting it. I worked in England for a while. I worked in Birmingham for a while, and when you came back from your holidays, the holidays was the first 2 weeks of July. I think it was the first 2 weeks of July. And the minute you came back, somebody came around every week and collected your pound for next year's holiday. And that money was put away, and usually by the company. I worked for Lucas, and they kept the money, the personnel department, and they kept it for you, and then they gave you that in one lump sum before you went on your holidays. And you see, you could plan everything. You knew it was going to be the first 2 weeks of July next year. So you could, by Christmas, this is where, you wonder why all these catalogues come out, the holiday catalogues come out in January, and you say to yourself, what the hell, I don't know where I'm going to be in July. So I can't
They know.
But the English knew. And the English, you had a vast population. I mean, the population of Britain is, 64, 65 million. We're 4, 5, 6 million. There's a vast difference. And I mean, the English came in their droves, and they came. You had different ones at different times. You had the older people before the holidays, before the kids got their holidays, and after the kids got their holidays. Then you had the holidays, the kids in the heart of the summer.
Let me fast forward you to Knocknamoe Hotel. Was Mickey Ward in charge when you arrived here?
Mickey Ward took over when I came up here. I came up here in '86, and Mickey was in charge of Knocknamoe then. Mickey owned Knocknamoe, and Knocknamoe then was. Well, my first visit to Knocknamoe, I mean, it was like a bomb hit it. It was one of those places that was everything was neglected, but I stayed a weekend and I could not believe it. That place was packed with cars. You couldn't have got a mile down the old Mountfield Road and all around Killyclogher, and the whole place was just blocked with cars. And I remember looking one time, and I remember talking to somebody about it, and they said they came from as far away as Monaghan, Cavan, and all those areas up for the discos and the dances. That was that time, And I mean, the potential in Knocknamoe was enormous. It was an amazing place, and I started cooking there, and I remember the first week. There was nobody about, and it was shabby because the money was being made in the disco. The money was being made out of the dance hall, and Mickey, to be fair to him, as long as the money was coming in, he didn't care how it was coming in, So there was a group then bought it off Mickey, and Mickey went offside, and the plan was to turn it into a decent hotel, and my job was to bring back the food. And at that time, I can remember I went up to Belfast to see, because I didn't really have a clue. I said, what the hell am I going to do here, And I went up to Belfast, and I came across in the Green and Lodge, they were doing a deal, dinner for two and a bottle of wine for £10. And so I set about, and I found my bottle of wine, and I needed to be able to buy a bottle of wine for about £1.50. And I got my wine for £1.50. At that time, the red wine was dear, but you didn't have many people drinking red wine that time. You know, the white wine was the big one. You had to bring in that by the pallet load. And what I did was I did dinner for two and a bottle of wine for £12. And it just took off like a bomb. It really, really, really took off. And we were doing, I suppose the quietest night would have been a Monday night, and we did on 150 people for dinner, you know. And it was amazing, absolutely amazing. And you couldn't, that time the pubs couldn't open on a Sunday, you see. Sunday was a crazy day in Knocknamoe. And I mean, it was just booming, absolutely booming at that time. But then we were in the middle of the troubles, and there was issues happened, little things happened here and there. And the long and the short of it was that Knocknamoe was burnt down. I was only there 6 months, I think, when Knocknamoe was burnt down, you know. And so I pulled out then, and I opened the Pink Elephant up the town.
Yes.
And the Pink Elephant, I had it for 17 years, I think, and did very, very well. And it was a time of change. Omagh didn't have much when I came in '86, and by that I don't mean the structures were there, but the army had the town completely sealed off. You could only get in through Bridge Street and out through Bridge Street, and that really, I mean, it wasn't a town then. It was a fortified town, and you can't have you can't have freedom to shop. You can't.
It was more like an industrial estate, I suppose.
It was, yeah, it was. And
gates on either side. Yeah.
People went in just out of necessity. Nobody went in and walked around the town. You didn't do that, you know. And I suppose Knocknamoe that time was lucky then, because we were out in the village, we were out of town and that, and people could, you know, get out there and that, you know. But the changes since I came are enormous. I mean, they're absolutely enormous. The town. You see, it was when you suppress something and hold it back, and when they eventually did open the floodgates, which was they didn't open them until about maybe 1990 or 91 or 90, maybe something like that. The town just blossomed. It just literally blossomed in no time at all. And they often talk about the recession back in 1990. They say we're having the same recession today. I never saw it in 1990. And I would imagine if you ask other people, in Omagh particularly, I don't think they saw it, because once Omagh got the chance to grow, and once the army pulled out of the town and sort of left us to our own devices, we grew very, very fast, very, very fast. And it was probably before 1990 that they opened, actually, because I opened the Pink Elephant in 87. And it was maybe 88 or 89 that they opened the town up, you know.
Where did you get the name Pink Elephant, or where was that from?
Oh, the Pink Elephant. The Pink Elephant was unusual because it used to be called the Pepper Mill.
That's right.
And the Pepper Mill, and I mean, the funny thing is you pick something in total innocence, and the name the Pink Elephant, it would have other names in the city, you know, and that. But the Pepper Mill was not a great place. I mean, and my only way to describe the Pepper Mill was you could have smelt it as you turned your corner of Bridge Street, you know. And the Pepper Mill was just a chip shop, coffee shop, whatever you want to call it. And I had heard that it was the guy wanted to sell it and he wanted to get out. And I looked at it and really, I toed and froed for a long time, and I said, no, it's just no good, and it's no good. And I don't know what, something hit me in the back. I think probably my guardian angel gave me a slap on the back of the head. And one day I was walking past and I said, all it needs is to be cleaned, you know. If I can get rid of the smell, I can, you know. But so I bought it and I got rid of the smell, but the other thing I had to get rid of was the name. And I said, because the funny thing about names is that you can change the name of something, and if the original name, if the new name isn't strong enough, then the original name will stay and it will stick. And I really needed a name not to stick. So I needed to get an unusual name, and that's the Pink Elephant. I don't know. I think somebody said to me one time, I told him what I was doing, and he said, that's going to be a white elephant, you know. And that's where I came from. That's really where I came from. And the funny thing, there was an old man we used to make hay for him long ago. John Stokes, he was called. And John Stokes, the poor man, he was bent over. He used to put his elbow on his knee. He was bent over with arthritis. And we were young fellas. My father used to send us down to give him a hand. And he never married. And to us, he was as old as the hills. You know, I'm sure the man wasn't that old. But when we were young fellas, he seemed like he was in his 90s. But he always used to say that never worry if somebody's talking about you. It's when they stop talking about you, you got to worry. And it was always in the back of my head, and that's today. I would never worry what people say about me or what people think about me. But there's a great, I suppose, a bit of Irish logic to it. If somebody's talking about you, you're making some impression. And that was the thing that I felt about the Pink Elephant, was that they may laugh at the name, they may talk about it, and they may joke about it, but that's good.
Yeah.
It means that it's making an impression on them, because there's nothing worse than having a name or having a business or anything like that people forget about. The people completely forget about. So that's where the Pink Elephant came, and that was Omagh back. But you talk about, we're coming up to Christmas. We're at the mouth of Christmas, as they used to say. But this time, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, certainly, I suppose 10 years ago, the bomb did have a bad effect. It really did tear the heart out of the town. But before that, Christmas in Omagh was absolutely chaotic. I can remember in the Pink Elephant in the days of coming up to Christmas, a day like today, I certainly wouldn't be here, and you wouldn't run out of a thing. You would run out of it 5 times, We'd run out of milk. Lickpatrick was up the back way there, and it wouldn't take you long to get over there, And we had the purgles of milk, the 3-gallon things of milk in the machine. And you'd run out of it at 12 o'clock, and you'd run out of it again at 2 o'clock, and you'd run out of it again at 4 o'clock. And I said, God damn it, I'll get enough of it this time. But sure as hell, you'd run out again about 5:30, Yeah. And it was that busy, You had a serious buzz in the town then. Now, I don't mean to say that has gone. It has probably spread out a little bit, and because you have the showgrounds and you have that, there is a fair few people around the town today, even in spite of the weather, in spite of what's going on. There's a lot of people about, but not like there was. Not like there was. I think that we had. We were lucky in Omagh for so many years that we were, even though we were in the troubled north, we weren't that troubled, we weren't that troubled. And you had little incidences, and every incident, I suppose, it might sound little to me, it was serious to other people. But all in all, the town moved, and it moved very fast. It grew very fast, and it got very prosperous at that time,
And you what year did you begin the Hawthorn House then? What year was that?
Hawthorn House, I began in 97. And Hawthorn House was
a house.
It was Hawthorn House. Yes. It was always Hawthorn House.
The vets owned it.
It was the vet's house, it was an absolute beautiful house. And I can remember many a time we used to go walking on a Sunday. There's a walk just from Killyclogher right around onto the Arleston Road and up. It's about a 2-mile walk, and you do that, and you pass Hawthorn House, and I can always remember it. I said, that'll be a lovely restaurant. And eventually it went up for sale, and I bought it and I turned it into that. But sure, I knocked it down again, and I really shouldn't have been allowed to knock it down. It was a lovely place. It was
a lovely old Victorian or Edwardian house.
Well, it wasn't actually. It was built in. Who was around in 1905? I think it was built around 1905, so it's a relatively new house. But it was built out of... Now, this is the story I was told. Now, stories, are stories, and you have to listen to... My mother-in-law always said, you have to listen to thunder. But it was built... There was 2 sisters, Spencer sisters, lived in Gorchin. And I can't remember their names now. And they were seamstresses. That's what they did. And they got a legacy from America, and they came and they built that house and lived in it right up to the 60s. But I think it might have been built as late as maybe 1922 or 19, it was around that time. It was the early 90s anyway. And it was, when we knocked it down, the walls were 18 inches thick of brick, just all solid brick. And the house was built on top of the ground. But they had put tar down first. They had put some form of tar down, and bricks were as dry, even though they were just built literally. There was no foundations put in. There was nothing like that. The house was just built on top of the ground. And when we knocked it, it just pulled away at the bottom. You didn't have to pull up any foundations. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. And it sat there, and it was never damp. It was the loveliest house ever. And it was a great. It was you know how you get a feeling for houses. Houses can be nice and not so nice. You can be lucky and unlucky, and Hawthorn House was an absolutely fabulous house. It was a very lucky house and a very nice house, And I do sometimes think I should never have been allowed to knock it. It was, if it was there today, I'd think that would be very
97 you bought it, was it?
97 bought it and opened it up, and at that time it nearly bankrupted me. It was because we had to clear all the walls, the Latin plaster, that old Latin plaster stuff. So there was a lot of more money spent on it than I had anticipated. And the thing about it, then we had the restaurant going. The restaurant had a great name. That doesn't mean you make a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
And it was open 6 months when we had the Omagh bomb. So that kind of put everything back. It really put you back beyond the starting post. But slowly it started to build up slowly, and it was loads. Even still today, people would say to me, "Oh, I remember the nights we had in Hawthorn House," and it was a great old place. And coming up to Christmas now, it would have been fantastic. We did lots of parties and lots of things there, and we had. And I mean, it was so small. You had to pack yourself into a corner. And when we had the Christmas parties, they'd have found a corner, and you just got rid of the chairs because there wouldn't be enough anyway, and they sat on the floor. And somebody had a guitar and they played, and that was great. It was absolutely brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant.
The food was always excellent.
And the food was the food. What I tried to do there, that was the food that I suppose I was trained to do in Kenmare and when my days in the Park Hotel and that, and it was something I always wanted to do. Because when you train for something, you kind of feel, because the Pink Elephant was a food factory. And it was child's play. You just put up your turkey and hams and your beefs, and funny enough, I'm back at it again. But the thing about the Pink Elephant and the thing about jam and the thing about Hawthorn House was that the fine dining, there's no money in it. It's actually too expensive to produce. Whereas the coffee shop idea, there's money in it. You can make profit at it, even though you're selling the stuff at quarter of the price. And it's just the way it is. It's the cost of expertise. You have to hire these chefs, and you have to hire these people that are experts at different things. And it's just too costly. It's fine if you're doing enough of it. If you're doing
it, a case of turnover's vanity and profit's reality.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. And while Hawthorn House was a lovely place and everybody loved it and everybody was sad to see it go, it wasn't profitable. Now I enjoyed it. It was I was there for about 8 years. I think we had it running for 8 years, because I set it up. You know how you always say, right, if I can get my own place and if I can do my own, I'll do it right. And I did it right. I spent an awful lot of money in the kitchen, and we had a kitchen there that was second to none. It was in fact, when I closed it, I considered turning it into a factory, turning it into a processing factory, because I had every kind of machine you could think of. And we sold them all off. We had a big auction and we sold them all off. But at that time, I could make anything. I could process soup. I could process, because I had the machinery for doing it. But it was great. It was enjoyable, and some of those things you have to do them anyway. Because you go through life, you say, I should have done that, and I should have done that.
Well, you mentioned the market for fine dining. Do you think is Omagh too small a town for that?
It is, yeah, it is. You need a bigger population, and you need. Now, in saying that, Omagh's not a small town, and the basis that I sort of worked on was that people always have special occasions. And if you have, say, drawing a big circle around Omagh and taking in maybe the outer hinterland, you had maybe 65,000 people, right? Now that's 65,000 birthdays. And there's only 50 weeks in the year. There's only 50 weekends in the year, for a birthday party. So maybe if I got a small percentage of them for dinner, then you have anniversaries, then you have, you have a whole load of little. We did a few weddings as well, but so in theory it should work. but theory and practice, and I suppose the one learning curve and all that, just because you're right doesn't mean you'll be successful. Being right, having everything right doesn't necessarily mean it'll work. You must look at other things. There's a whole lot of other issues, and there's things nowadays. The fine dining, everybody loves nice food. There's no question about that, but we have too many other things to sort of beaten down our doors, and to spend. You were talking about an average spend in the days of Hawthorn House of about £25 per person. Now it's probably more today. It is definitely more today. But you had a £25 spend per person. So a couple going out was £50, and you might spend another 10 on a babysitter, and they just didn't have the money. You just, as much as you would like to do it, you just didn't do it. And you had another issue then as well. You had, which I discovered, we probably pitched ourselves maybe a little bit too high, and people were a little bit afraid. Oh God, maybe there'll be some other expense there that I'll have to pay, and maybe and we were actually as cheap, and in some cases cheaper than any of the similar type of restaurants around, and yet they would have got the business before us in a lot of cases. And I can remember an old lady coming up one time for a voucher, and the voucher, she said, "Look, I want to make sure it's for my daughter or for somebody like that. And I want to make sure that the voucher, if it's £50, that I don't want them spending money." So I said, "Look, dear," I said, "what I'll do is I'll give you £100 voucher. If is £100, oh, no problem," she said, "no problem." I said, "I'll give you the £100 voucher. If they don't spend it," I said, "I'll give them back another voucher if they spend 60, I'll give them a £40 voucher, and they can come again or whatever, And she said, "Oh God, it's brilliant, brilliant, brilliant." So we went, and I said, "Have you ever been here yourself?" "Good God, man, I couldn't afford this." But you had that impression. People couldn't afford it. I mean, it didn't matter if her daughter's meal cost £200 to her, but she couldn't afford it, and it would be that type of luxury that they couldn't afford, But fine dining in general for a town like Omagh, we're moving too fast. I think we're now moving too fast, and I think it's difficult to get enough people. I think if you pitch it maybe a little bit lower than fine dining, you'll do quite well, because people will still eat out, but they don't really want to dress up to eat out. That was one of our big problems, is people say, "Oh, I'd have loved to have gone there Saturday night, but I wasn't dressed." And I said, "But sure, what? Were you wearing nothing?" But I really would like to dress up and do my hair if I was coming out. But I didn't care, but people felt that. And then they would have gone to another restaurant, a similar restaurant, and spent the same money, And I remember a friend of mine telling me one time, there was 4 of us, she said, we were going to come out to you the other night, but we were in the pub, and we felt we had too many drinks in us, and so we went somewhere else instead. So you do have that problem when you pitch yourself high, and now in saying all that, it works with you as well. That type of thing works with you as well, and for definitely coming up to Christmas, we would have done a serious amount of business. People say, "No, we'll spend the money, we'll go." Or people home, if youngsters come home and they brought their parents out, they wouldn't take them anywhere else, only to us, And you had that run in between Christmas and the New Year, where we were just flat out. It would have been booked right out from very early December, from very early December. And that was the young influence. That's why it's always great for young people to come home. Young people need to come home because they can educate their parents, when they come home. Because as we get older, we do get a little bit stale, and it's great to see the young people coming, and the young people will kind of enlighten us as to what's happening in the world and what we need to change, and that, because we do go into the clouds a little bit, and we are into the fog, as I would say, and then they bring us out of the fog fairly fast,
Yeah, a friend of mine, his sons would come back. They were up, I think, in Belfast and over in England, and he says, they come home and they, we'll go out, we'll get something to eat, and they recommend a wine, which is the only thing is that I'm paying for the wine, but they recommend do the recommendation.
That's the problem.
So I think there is that too.
Yeah, that is the problem.
But the whole the idea of going out, it's. Do you think are we losing that sense of occasion?
I think
it was a very special thing.
It was special, but the problem with it now is, we're living in a completely different world now. When yes, you had the special occasions and you had the functions. You had a few functions in the winter time and that, and it was special. But we did need to get out more. We did need. I mean, getting out more is good, but the problem is now we're going back in again. Because drink has gone too dear. I mean, it is too expensive to go out now. It is actually too expensive to go out. Drink is it's a complete joke. The price of drink, and I don't know why. Because if you do the maths on it, you can go to Asda and buy a bottle of vodka for £10, I suppose, like that. Now, am I right in saying there's 20 half ones in
Pretty
that?
much, yeah, at £40.
So you're talking about 50p for your vodka. Now, how come a pub has to charge £3 or whatever it is? If I could do it, I'd do it with my food, but I can't do it with my food. The profit margin in pubs is colossal. It's very, very big, and I'm amazed that now they say yes, they're paying big money for decor but everybody pays. Businesses have to keep everything. I pay a lot of money for my decor and that. And I think there needs to be some other way, and I do believe that the pub business is controlled. The Vintners Association control it, and they keep these prices high, and they're shooting themselves in the foot. I mean, people are going now to the off license, they're buying their and I mean, I have a friend now. It's to do with having children and everything else, and he says what he does. He has a couple. He's married with a couple of kids, and he has a friend of his that's married with a couple of kids, and on Saturday night's the big night, I think. They visit their friends, they take the bottle of vodka and they take the 24 cans of whatever it is, and they eat in their friend's house. They bring their kids along as well, and they sleep over. And the whole lot of them, he said, we could be there till 5 a.m. Next week they come to us. And it costs damn all.
Yes.
It literally costs damn all. Now, you take those people and send them to a pub. You have 2 babysitters to be paid for. You have your taxis. But that's before you ever start. And you have your pub and you have your food. For 4 people, would £200 cover it today?
Should.
Just probably. Whereas now they can, the bottle of vodka, okay, allow 15 quid for it.
Yeah.
And allow another 15 quid for a load of cans of beer or whatever. That's £30 and a bit of food's £50. That's so 25% of the original cost. And that's what's forcing us, because it's not. They would love to go out, but they just can't do it. It's just not feasible, and it's not. It's a pity that we're going that way. I think it's a pity that we're going that way, because we're not interacting with each other anymore.
I think it all ended with the millennium, because it was such
The millennium destroyed a lot. It did destroy
It was
a lot.
hyped up, and people says, look, batten down the hatches, we're going to stay at home.
Yeah.
I think they never left since.
The change did. The change came then. You're dead right.
I
You're
also
dead
think
right.
some pubs charging exorbitant prices for people to get in.
And the
I
noise
think
in
that-
pubs.
yeah,
See,
that-
if you want satellite TV in your home, it's fine, but I don't like it in a pub.
But there's no need of it. But then they have to. They're trying everything now to get people in. But what amazes me is that they get you in and then they clean you. And do they not see? Now maybe I'm missing something. But I can't. You see, if I'm running a restaurant, I have, let's say, 3 waitresses. I have 2 chefs. I have myself. So that's 6 of us, and you have somebody in the wash-up, and you have maybe somebody cleaning. So you have 8 people to deal with, let's say, a 50-seater restaurant, right? And you'll get 50 or 60 or 80 people. You won't get any more. That's your limit. You'll do your fill plus a little bit more. So you'll do 60 people. And at the end of that night, I've had my 60 people in. There's only a certain amount of money they've spent. They all go home, we clean up, but I have 8 people to pay, right? A bar has 2 or 3 barmen, and they've taken in probably 5 times more money than I've taken in. So that I still think that the pricing of the pubs is wrong. I think that they're pricing themselves out of the market, and people are proving it by not going there. You know, people are just not going there.
Well, I've noticed it now this year. You open home in the evening. Some of the pubs that would normally be attracting the car park would be full. Or
No.
I find maybe a lot of people is, but a lot of the Christmas staff parties have been cancelled due to the weather. But I think it's also an opportune time because in the days of recession, people say, "Here's my get out clause."
Absolutely. Because I can remember back even, and this was. It's funny how things change, and how one thing is like you say about the millennium changing the way that people eat or go out. The year after the Omagh bomb, we had suppliers that said, look, they would always have brought you a bottle of brandy or they'd have given you something at Christmas time, you know, and loads of them said at that time, look, we'll donate it to the Omagh bomb instead. Have you any problem with that? And we said, no, we don't have any problem with that. Since then, we get very little from suppliers. It stopped, it broke the habit, and they don't do it. And habits, you see, if you break habits like that, especially habits that are costing, you know, people just, the Christmas parties, you could find the companies that cancelled Christmas parties this year may not bother with them next year, you know. And I don't believe in Christmas parties anyway. I think they cause more problems than they ever resolve. I think that now it's nice for staff to meet, but I think staff should meet with the people they like. You know, because staff...
There's emotional blackmail there, isn't there?
There's always a few people that somebody doesn't like, or that somebody... and then there's a row at a party. And now I don't go to Christmas parties. I don't go to any kind of staff parties for that reason. They can talk about me while I'm not there. But and that doesn't bother me at all. But the trouble with gatherings like that, where you, it's an excuse to get a gripe at somebody, you know, and a lot of time you get the odd black eye over it, you know, different people, and that's a pity, you know, that is a pity, you know, because
it's not a regrets the next day, you know.
Yeah.
Well, tell me, you know, looking at your career in the fine dining business and the food business. Did you foresee the rise of the TV chef and the way that has become ubiquitous now, you know, since the past 10, 15 years?
No, I don't think anybody could have seen. Now, you always had the Delia Smiths, and you always had you always had those people. And going back to when I was, I suppose, in my heyday, which is, my God, it's 25 years ago now, I would definitely have been in there with them. You know, because that was the type of person I was, and if it was going on, then I would have been stuck in it. You know, but I don't think anybody anticipated the way these things were going to grow. And I think the people that did anticipate it and the people that did spot it, they never thought it would last so long. And funny, I was watching Gordon Ramsay last night. He was on the Christmas thing last night, and Gordon would have been. I would have had his books, and I would have, because he was a very good chef. He is a very good chef.
Is he your favourite chef, Michael, do you think?
He would be the one I would more trust. You know, if he gave me a recipe, I would do it. If 5 different people, Nigella now, I can't work with her. You know, different ones you found, and even some of them I bought their books and I couldn't work with their recipes. You know, Jamie is different. Jamie Oliver is a showman. He's not really a chef. He's a showman. That they've made him good at his job, you know. But Gordon Ramsay is a chef. He's a true loves food, and he will walk all over you if you get in his way. But it's food is his God, really. I mean, he knows it so well. And there's nothing that you can say to him to catch him out on food. He just knows. He knows the way flavours blend. He knows the way. He knows what you can experiment with and what you can't experiment with. You know. And watching him last night, you'd think I'd be sick of looking at that sort of stuff. But no, I enjoyed him last night, and he didn't do anything different. He did the Christmas turkey, and he did all those things which we do all ourselves, and we know how to do them. But it was nice to watch it. It was nice to watch it, and it's a kind of a thing. They're getting better at it. You know, they are getting better at it. Now, of course, they have to get better at it, otherwise people won't watch those things. But the stuff he does now in Hell's Kitchens and all that type of thing, it has made him a fortune, and it has a vast viewing audience.
Huge spin-off on it as well.
You know, yeah. And that type of reality TV and food is food, you know. Everybody has to eat, so everybody's interested in food. And the funny thing about it nowadays, I think the young people today, the young couples, they don't know how to cook, in a sense that our parents, I mean, my mother, I stood beside my, she showed me how I could make white sauce when I was 10 years old. You know, I could light the fire. She showed us how to light the fire. She showed us, you know, all those little things, and those form the foundation then of what you do. I shouldn't say this. My daughter Marie, I don't think could make white sauce today. You know, but it's just a sign of the times. It's just a sign of the times. And I mean, Marie would ring me often or text me and say, I've got a duck. What am I going to do with it? Sell it to me. I'll buy it. But you know, the young people, and these programs are good for that. They show them that, you know, they're interesting and they can see little things, and probably if you said to me, go away and do one of those things, I would do it for those people. I would do it for the person that doesn't know anything about food. And I wouldn't be pitching it up at what Gordon Ramsay does. I would pitch it right down to the very bottom, and I would start with making a breakfast. I mean, you have no idea how many people don't know how to make breakfast, don't know how to make scrambled eggs, don't know how to make poached eggs. You know, the simple basic things that, and I mean, a good breakfast is one of the best things you can cook, and it's the same stuff. You know, you go to the supermarket, you buy the bacon, the sausages, the rashers, the puddings, and all the rest of it. But you can cook one, and I can cook one, and they can be worlds apart.
It's all about timing, isn't it?
And it's just timing. It's just a little bit of training. It's just a little bit of training.
You know, I think, you know, when I remember my mother. Say making her soda bread.
Oh yeah,
there were no cups. It was all just scoops with a hand.
Oh yeah,
there was
no, absolutely no need. There was no need. There was no need.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
You know, and
it's amazing.
It's a skill that's gone.
It's a skill that's gone.
Absolutely. As many's a gay night from dark till daylight I spend with people of high renown. But in all their grandeur and heaps to squander, my heart would wander for Sweet Omagh Town.